Welcome to the 27th Annual Conference of the International Environment Forum. The IEF is a Baha'i-inspired organization addressing the environment and sustainability from both a scientific and spiritual perspective. The overall conference topic is Implementing Solidarity Global to Local. Implementing solidarity is a fundamental prerequisite for humanity to change its course toward a just, peaceful, and environmentally sustainable society, and at the same time is at the core of fulfilling the spiritual purpose of life for each human being. The 6 events will explore this topic, focusing on specific issues that literally range from global to local. Some events report on wonderful grassroots initiatives from all around the world, and some others share bold new perspectives on global solidarity, specifically its application to global environmental governance and its prerequisites of trust and accountability. The IEF warms thankfully the conference co-sponsors for their support, the Wilmette Institute, the Baha'i International Community, and EBBF Ethical Business Building the Future. Today is our first event. Kayla Basket will be the moderator and will tell you all about it.
All right, welcome everyone. Today's event has a different format than the rest of our conference this week. Today's event is specifically structured to engage everyone in discussion. So we're going to do a 5-minute presentation. Our first presentation is from Anthony Vodraska, who lives in Maryland, and he's going to talk about his community gardens project and how he's engaging junior youth and children and on the topics of sustainability and climate change and educating our next generation with hands-on work in the garden. So he's going to talk for 5 minutes or so. And then after that, I want everyone to chime in. Tell us about community gardening in your community. Tell us, ask the speaker questions. You can do this through the chat feature. You can raise your hand and talk. We're going to have a short discussion, maybe 5 to 10 minutes on Anthony's topic. And then we're going to move to our next speaker. We've got a handful today. So we're going to switch what we're doing. We're going to switch our topic every 10, 15 minutes. But feel free to chime in. That is the purpose of today's format. So I'm going, before we get started, I just wanted to announce tomorrow's, or on the 18th of September, on Monday, is the first panel format event of this conference. The topic on Monday is Trust and Accountability, Bringing Values into Our Future. Same time as today's webinar. And Christine is going to put all the links in the chat for you if you want to look up the events for Monday or the rest of the entire week. All right, why don't we hand it over to Anthony? Oh, I love that graphic.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the IEF for this opportunity to share our experiences in gardening and community building. I also want to thank those who have joined us because I hope to learn from you during the Q&A period at the end of this presentation. Human-caused climate change creates challenges for all of us, and even more so, nature itself. And creating biodiverse and resilient urban landscapes can help mitigate some of the negative impacts. By some accounts, more than 50 million acres in the United States are covered in turf lawns. Lawns are the single largest irrigated crop in the country. Lawns also require significant amounts of fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides, and this is increasingly a non-sustainable use of our landscape that impacts biodiversity, pollutes our watershed, and ultimately impacts each of us. There's a growing interest to rebalance our lawns with more native plants and sustainable gardening practices. And the Baha'i teachings on nature, unity of science and religion, diversity, social justice, equity, and sustainability can inform our approach to transform our lawns into gardens that enhance well-being and connectedness, biodiversity, and food production. All right. In this presentation, I'm going to explore our Baha'i community building efforts that are supported by educational and service activities centered around gardening and creating biodiversity. I'll also talk about the role of animating principles in meaningful conversations about actions to address environmental challenges. In our suburban garden, we have created a setting for a variety of activities aimed at fostering harmony, balance, biodiversity, and sustainability. Over the last 12 months, we've hosted more than 100 individuals in garden tours and through activities for children, youth, and adults. Additionally, the layout of our hillside gardens and greenhouse has provided us the opportunity to grow food for our family, neighbors, and a local food bank. And we also propagate a wide variety of plants that we give to others to start them on their journey of creating indoor green spaces and more biodiversity in their yards. This quote from the Universal House of Justice, the supreme governing body of the Baha'i faith, states that as communities become more self-reliant and responsible for their own development, it is important to focus on the spiritual and social transformation that will enhance the life of the community. Protecting the environment is one example in which people can come together to build more resilient communities. A nucleus of Baha'is in our community are focused on expanding neighborhood outreach activities. We identify topics that resonate with family members, including children's classes and the Junior Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program. We also explored complementary activities for children, junior youth, and their parents. Our goal is to pilot activities and learn how to tailor them to different age groups. For children, these activities can address the principles and basic skills in soil health, plant germination, sustainable gardening, and food production. Youth and adult activities could take deeper dives into spiritual teachings and practices on biodiversity, the benefits of native plants, and sustainable gardening practices. Our goal is to share what we have learned and encourage dialogue and how to take incremental steps toward transforming lawns into garden beds. Early in this summer, we tested a garden tour program specifically tailored for children and junior youth, focusing on seed germination. We encouraged the children and the junior youth to explore the beauty and the wonders of the garden spaces. We delved into the concept of unlawning and discussed the importance of biodiversity. We then moved to the fundamentals of seed germination, offering hands-on experience in creating sustainable paper pots from recycled newspapers. Participants also had the opportunity to practice planting seeds in these pots, and everyone took paper pots home with additional seeds, and we encouraged them to continue their gardening journey. The program is very successful for older children and junior youth. It generated a great deal of excitement. We will continue this program into the next planting season in 2024, offering it to other children, junior youth groups in our area. And we plan to seek the assistance of other youth in guiding this program as well. We also piloted a program for junior youth and their parents that shares our experiences on lawning, which is our way of removing lawns and replacing them with garden spaces. In our front yard in particular, we focused on plant biodiversity. We have planted over 70 species of native plants in the Mid-Atlantic region in 8 garden beds. The program started with an interfaith discussion of God's creation and our relationship to nature, and we discussed the Baha'i teachings regarding unity and diversity and how they guide us to value nature and preserve biodiversity. We covered topics on the benefits of using native plants and their role in enhancing biodiversity, sustainability, watershed improvements, and mitigating climate change. We made it interactive and engaged by including a scavenger hunt focused on finding and identifying native plants in the front yard garden beds. The infographic we created for this program explores the unique properties of each plant and the important role they provide in supporting wildlife. This program successfully united the spiritual and the ecosystem benefits of reintroducing biodiversity in garden landscapes. It promoted practical actions for a sustainable future. And we'll update this program on feedback that we receive to offer it in 2024 to more junior youth and groups and parents. As master gardeners, we open our gardens as to a platform for community engagement, where we can both share our knowledge and learn from others. While the large group gatherings allow us to reach a broad audience, they present challenges for having in-depth, meaningful conversations. To bridge this gap, we post infographics around the garden to share key principles, benefits, and our own experiences. And during these events, we give away many plants and we propagate in our garden and in our greenhouse. I'm also exploring a parallel effort with these activities and how to introduce and discuss animating principles. Animating principles are the foundational values or spiritual teachings that give our lives direction and purpose. They guide us to make decisions, they take actions and bring about changes in our lives and in our communities. It is vital to communicate how spiritual teachings can be applied to some of these most significant environmental challenges of our time. And there are a few examples of animating principles on this page that I have been collecting, editing, and using in various communication products and meaningful conversations. Depending on the audience, these principles can be very more general, appealing to spiritual values without reference to the Baha'i teachings. Infographics can also be instrumental in conveying animating principles, key benefits, and how an activity can help mitigate climate change impacts. These can be shared during the garden tours, which we have done, educational programs, and through digital platforms. They are especially useful in self-guided garden tours involving larger groups when it's hard to have extended conversations. These 3 infographics cover harvesting rain, composting, and native plants. For some, thinking about these animating principles underlying these activities allows them to consider both what motivates them and how they can better align their actions to their values, which is increasingly more and more important as we want to move the population in this direction. And for this fall, we will be piloting a seed harvesting and planting activity for junior youth. We are also transforming our vegetable garden space to raised beds that better support permaculture practices. And over the winter months, we will develop additional programs for community outreach next summer involving simple unlawning practices, permaculture, raised bed vegetable garden practices, container gardens, and sustainability practices for the home garden. We would like to learn more from others on how we can better serve a larger cross-section of our community. We want to explore the interests of both parents and single people as well. And we also want to explore the need and the feasibility of intergenerational cooperation among young, middle-aged, and older people in gardening as a service project. And with that, I would like to open this for a brief period of questions and comments.
I love your photos, Anthony. They make my brain very happy. So green. I know we got a lot of gardeners in the audience. Anyone want to share what they're doing in their community or ask the speaker some questions here? Laurent.
Yes, hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for the great presentation. It's quite impressive. Maybe I didn't hear properly. How many junior youth do you have you were involved in the program this year?
Let's see, I don't have a number ready in that. These were piloting programs. So of the junior youth, which is the older category as opposed to the children's programs, there was a smaller group. We had probably at one point or another 4 to 5 different junior youth from our area, which is our own local community, that participated in those.
Yeah, and also it's really wonderful that you also involve the parents. That really brings, there are so many elements that are really good in the program.
Thank you.
Bill, Aaron.
Yes, very excellent. The slides are brilliant. The question I have is what have you thought through in terms of the replication of this for other communities, and like a formal methodology by which to share these some of these slides, as well as maybe mentor others in other communities that are trying to accomplish the same thing for their communities, and adapt and be able to adapt it to the circumstances that vary as locations change.
Thank you, Bill. That's a great question. And that's one of the things that, based on our experience this summer, that we like to explore over the winter months and talk to some of the other Baha'i communities in the area in particular. We are in Montgomery County, there are several Baha'i communities, and we just happen to be one of the smaller ones actually in our area. We have a pretty good sized footprint, but we actually only have about 37 adults and youth in our community. So it would be useful to do exactly what you're asking about. And we'll just start by working with some of the assemblies and the junior youth groups and see what their interests are and how we can integrate them with their existing programs.
Gary.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Oh, I should say something. Well, basically, I'm an agriculturalist. I've been doing it for, well, 50 years in different places around the world, including here in Ukraine. And when I talk about working with agricultural areas, I don't just talk about junior youth. I talk about families, really. Being able to create a group of people together and be able to work in rural areas, in communities that are excellent. I can work in capital cities because I do right now, but I don't always. But I do think it's very important to work in communities, and we work together, not just junior youth. The adults have to do it, the women have to do it, the men have to do it. I think it's the future of the world is actually doing a much better job. And I also think as we go forward and talk about these sorts of things, it's not just about Baha'i communities doing this work. We as Baha'i communities work with other people all the time and should do more and more as we go forward, in the change in the climate, in the change of the activities in the world as we see them today. So it's not just, okay, small Baha'i communities that are working together. Well, that's wonderful, but I think it has to be much more than that if we're talking about communities, agriculture, working in the areas, particularly outside of the cities, that I think the future are important for everybody.
Gary, I wholly agree with that. As master gardeners, my wife and I do a lot of other educational work with other areas and communities and families, if you will, in our area. So we've kind of focused in this initial effort on targeting certain children's classes and junior youth groups just to see how we can create this kind of space outside of their existing programs that they normally run to help them in this larger context. But you are absolutely right on the broader picture. And I think that that's the only way to succeed in furthering these goals.
So Anthony, if you could put any contact information you want to share, if you're willing to share your infographics, those were pretty cool, and any other resources so people can reach out to you. And Winnie, if you're willing to put your agriculture working group information in the chat. Winnie helps to run an entire organization, Baha'i-inspired organization that talks about gardening and agriculture. And if you're interested in this topic specifically, you definitely want to reach out to her and go get in touch with her organization, because they've been around a long time and they've got webinars and book clubs and meetings and all sorts of good resources.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you.
All right.
So there's a question in the chat about whether this experience has been replicated or exists in other areas. Maybe if anybody knows of these initiatives, or if Anthony, if you know about any of these initiatives, maybe it would be nice to share in the chat as well.
I'd love to hear from the rest of the group on that. I really am not familiar with a lot of other groups outside our area that might be engaged in these things, but I imagine there are many.
Yes, and Winnie has her finger on the pulse of all of that. If you want, she's your contact for all things gardening and agriculture. All right, we are going to go to our next topic. We've got Elsa, global citizen, world traveler, coming to us today from Puerto Rico. She is on our International Environment Forum Youth Task Force, and she's going to talk about what the Youth Task Force has been doing and consultations they've had at local conferences. Take it away, Elsa.
So I recently attended the ABS Climate and Environment Seminar in August as a representative of the IEF Youth Task Force. The event was about youth-adult collaboration for climate social action. Each panelist presented different ideas and learnings, and then everyone formed groups to brainstorm and form a vision on the subject. The groups were asked to think about what youth-adult collaboration looks like in a vibrant, healthy learning community that is thoughtful about climate change and the role of the faith and the sacred. This produced many helpful insights. We had ideas about providing an atmosphere of trust and loving companionship for youth through the concept of youth as bold and discerning, and where their energy and ideas can combine in harmony with experience and wisdom. The Baha'i core activities, including the Junior Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program and the Ruhi Institute, provide a framework for this collaboration by uniting all age groups in service and spiritual growth. And we can also take an example in the success of PSA. Also, we had recognizing youth and children's powers of activism and insight, and giving them more opportunities to hone their capabilities in service and public speaking. Transmitting awareness of reality along with the confidence and faith in humanity in a way that can transform climate anxiety into empowerment. Also educating youth on climate change in a way that makes climate action a coherent part of their lives, so that they can have some direction in their lives and know what they want to dedicate their capacities to. Also educating youth and children on cultural and traditional knowledge and preserving diverse identities so that we can have universal participation and build collective knowledge. We have studying writings and the Universal House of Justice and Baha'i International Community publications in communities to build knowledge and inspiration for action as a group. And we also came up with the idea to share resources and create ways for youth to connect more and help each other. So on this note, we made a Google Sheet for anyone to put their contact information and interests so that we can organize more action and consultation. So I'll put the link to the sheet in the chat. And yeah, so I think this is a really successful effort, and I'm excited to see what will come of it.
Involving the next generation in environmental issues is, I think, of the most important goals we should be having in this space. If you have any youth in your communities, Elsa is engaging youth all over the globe. So is it correct to say most of your interactions are digital in this?
Kind of. So yeah, in the youth task force, like we started a few months ago, and we've already been able to organize a few activities, and it's been amazing because we've been really supported by the adults of IEF. And so we have a lot of plans to engage more youth and do more education on climate action.
So I don't think we have any other youth in the audience today, but I'm sure you all know youth And if you want to pass the word along, we are trying to ramp up this youth committee, and we're, in consultation with what do they want to do, and hopefully we're trying to make it youth led, and because really this is their planet.
Bob briefly raised his hand. Do you want to? No?
Who raised his hand?
Trav?
No, that was applause.
Wanda.
Hi, thank you so much for this wonderful event. And I wanted to ask Winnie if she would talk about how to make like I have 1/4 land and I would love for it to be used by refugees. We do have in Charlotte large refugee community from Syria, Afghanistan, etc. So how does that work? I mean, it would be nice to know there's some kind of framework how you implement that. I would really appreciate it.
Well, I'm not an expert in it. It's a notion that I've had for a long time that these refugees in camps have no land on which to work, and they have all those skills and knowledge. So to start with, if you have in a country where there are camps, you could organize junior youth to interview and perhaps capture those skills and knowledge. But in my local community, World Relief is an organization that works with the refugees. And we even have a large plot in the middle of High Point, North Carolina, about 5 acres, on which the refugees, 24 families this year, I think, are gardening. But I would love to figure out how people who want to unlawn might, and not maybe able to grow food themselves, would just offer to let someone do it. I've started gardening in my front yard in order for people to understand that they don't have to have lawns.
Bill, Aaron. Bill or Aaron, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to ask Elsa if she had anything top of mind that she thinks would be important to help bridge the gap between the concerns and actions of young people and maybe what adults can do, the large, older people essentially can do to facilitate those things. Because I think what you're doing in terms of building bridges between what seem to be 2 separate groups of people in most of our societies is crucial for success in terms of this endeavor with the environment and justice as a whole. And I was just wondering, what do young people see as something that the older people aren't doing that they might ought to consider doing to better work with the young people?
I think maybe like having a more open mindset and like, yeah, really, really supporting everything that youth want to do, because yeah, like youth have a lot of energy and activism to share. And I think sometimes youth feel like unable to do anything, and like there's a lot of climate anxiety. And so yeah, anything that the adults can do to help like with education, also looking at the core activities, those are really like effective example in the way that adults have collaborated with youth and like for spiritual growth, but also this leads to a lot of climate activism too. So I think, yeah, just having a clear concept of the power of youth and children and giving more opportunities for them to develop skills in service and yeah, giving more opportunities for education too. I think that would be very helpful.
So the link Elsa put in the chat has contact information for the youth task force. If any of you want to pass it along to youth you know. Thank you so much, Elsa. Our next little talk here is from Bill Kelly, who lives in Ottawa, Canada, and he has put together information for homeowners about how to make their homes, help them get off fossil fuels and make their homes more green. If you're ever thinking, you know, this climate situation is so large, it's so much bigger than any one person, and you feel disempowered about what to do, this is the answer of what you can do. Increasing the energy efficiency of your home is the most impactful thing any one individual can do. So take it away, Bill.
All right, then. So we're these slides that you're seeing are borrowed from previous presentations on various topics where they fit in. And the first one you see where there's someone with a telescope looking at the cosmos. We like to start off with that because we want to start off with general and go very specific. And we also want people to realize that what we focus on is only one element of a vast array of possibilities to be of service, both on behalf of humanity as well as the overarching concern of the environment. Thank you. Is that working? There we go. So what we're focusing on here is what we could consider like to be, how do you make your home carbon neutral, and why would you want to do that? And what's really important about this is that raising climate awareness is starting to be, a lot of that, the flow of that is starting, a lot of it is starting to be, the river is in the rearview mirror. And that's because of and in spite of all of our efforts to raise awareness of climate change. The awareness has been raised significantly because of climate change. Climate change has facilitated our goal of raising awareness. So there's a lot of people out there that they're aware. We don't need to be spending a lot of time arguing with people who don't want to know about it. But people who are aware, they're feeling pretty helpless. You know, well, like Elsa, you know, how can we know we can do something, we need to be facilitated in doing that, whether we're young or old or whatever. And I think that's really what makes this a community building project, because what we're able to do when we help people take action to make their homes energy efficient as well as lower cost to operate is we're helping to build community, we're being of service, and we're effectively addressing climate change. So what we're trying to show here is not how to build how to make a carbon neutral home. But we're trying to show why we want to show others how to make a carbon neutral home, and how this is something that is not rocket science, that anyone can learn and share that with others, and that is a very powerful set of knowledge that people want to have handed to them. So the question is why would we want to do this? And maybe there is some awareness needs to be raised about that. So 27% of carbon emissions come from building operations, according to Forbes, recent Forbes article. And so essentially we help mitigate the climate crises, but we also get out of the deal cleaner, healthy, and more comfortable home environments, because that's what happens when you're not burning fossil fuels inside of your house. And that's what happens when you repair the leaks in your house and the moisture issues in your house. It's a big side benefit. Also, there's financial benefits. Essentially, when you reduce your energy costs, whether through efficiency or replacing moving to renewables, you benefit financially. You have more money to spend on other things that you might need, and you protect yourself against the rise in prices around energy, whether that energy is coming from fossil fuels or renewable energy. We all know that it's not very often that the price actually goes down on these over the long term. So we have this process that we show people how they can do this, and it's something that we learned because we needed to do it ourselves, and we figured out how to do it, and we just kept track of what was involved. So the first thing is assess your home, and that's kind of what we're going to focus on, because that's the spark. Once people understand what they need to do, then it's and they've allowed you to begin assisting them to understand that. You've sparked the need. You've gotten beyond that. Stop think that happens when you don't know what to do. When someone said, "This is what your home needs, and here's the process by which you can begin pursuing that arrangement." So that's really what we're talking about here is just a service that assesses people's homes to give them an idea about what they need to do next. And when someone asks what to do next, that means they're doing something now. And if they weren't doing something now, then that means you help to spark that action. And that's the service that we're pretty excited about seeing what's happening around that. So we have this is some of the things that we tell people. Okay, once you have assessed their home, then you can determine the actions, determine the sequence of actions, apply for incentives, get proposals and make decisions and proceed. So once we're done with that home assessment, then we just become mentors to help them through these processes. And maybe we know people who do a good job at something because we're in this local area and we can do this. And this is something that you can do at any community. Once you've spent a little time doing it, you begin to know who you can rely upon to do a good job to carry these things out cost effectively and such. So then, of course, at the end, we encourage people to monitor and evaluate their outcomes, because once they do, they become mentors. And that's why we call this community building, because once they get through this process for their own home, they get to thump their chest, which a lot of people like to do. And at the same time, they get to help others, which a lot of people like to do. So this is a self-propagating thing, and we found that to be true in reality. So this assess your home has specific aspects to it. First, you obtain an energy audit to determine the building envelope integrity, the air tightness, the insulation levels, and we went too far there. But the idea here is that it costs $500 in Ottawa, at least, to get someone to come and do a professional energy audit. So the service that we're providing is an amateur energy audit. And it essentially does about 80% of what a professional energy audit does. Now, as it happens in Ottawa and many other places, in order to get the incentives involved, you need to do a professional one. Well, that's fine. But people first need to be feel good that investing that $500 for a professional one is worthwhile. That there's something that's going to come out of it, so that they can get this done for free, and understanding that it's not a professional one, but it's just people using basic experience to give them that. Then they go from there. Once we've gone through houses, and Aaron and I, we do this on behalf of the Ottawa Cluster Environment Group, and we've been doing it with both Baha'is and non-Baha'is alike. But essentially, we just go in their house and check out various things like the furnace, the water, the heater, the air appliances, and the car that they're driving. And if they're coming to end of life, we encourage them to replace them with something more energy efficient and move from fossil fuels to electric. in the process. So that's essentially what we do. And once they get our, we actually produce an assessment, and here's one for a home that we've done, and here's one we actually did for the Baha'i Center here in Ottawa, where people review that and they see what the possibilities are, and they may say, well, we don't really want to deal with this, or they may say, yes, let's get on this. And we've had some very successful outcomes on this, and we've had some people run away. So it's not always going to be roses and such, but this is something that if you're doing it for yourself first, and we can share the slide that can show you how to do that, and we can also mentor that and help you get something going on in your own neighborhood, where you can, if you're doing it for your own home, then for us that means you're a potential person to grow this service in your community, because so we'd be very happy to help walk you through what to do in your own home wherever you live to accomplish this. So the idea is to inform action, and that when you take action, you get knowledge, and when you take knowledge, you have something to inform people to spark their action, and that's kind of the gist of things.
Thanks, Bill. Do you have any resources online for folks who might be interested in this kind of thing?
So Aaron has generated a resource. He's typing it in right now. It's called mycarbongoals.com, and it has he's building it out, and it's right now it's really relatively non-Baha'i. It's just straight up, and we're working on bringing in a framework for it that is more spiritually based. But it has two sections. One is exactly how you go about decarbonizing your home, and another is why and how, and you would make sound decisions in terms of transitioning your vehicle at the end of its life to electric, and what the benefits of that are.
All right, we have a question from Mark Griffin, who says, what can home renters, rather than home owners, or perhaps apartment renters, do to reduce water and energy footprints? Are landlords obligated, or do tenants have rights to improve these footprints, and can they benefit economically if they do so?
So this is a really good question, because when I give this this talk about home energy reduction, I'm aware that I'm talking to people who live in houses that are essentially highly privileged, probably in North or South America, or some of the more prosperous areas of Europe, and they live in these outrageously big houses, and those houses consume a lot of energy, and they contribute outlandishly to the carbon footprint of that everybody else has to pay for. So essentially, I'm kind of focused on those people and who are well-meaning and want to do something about it. Now, when we first moved to Ottawa, I was really ambitious. We moved into a condominium downtown, and we said, okay, we're going to go to go bug the condo board about getting electric car chargers for our electric car, and they just pretty much almost tarred and feathered us and ran us out of town and stuff. We were very discouraged. It's no fun having raised hell in the place that you live, and everybody's mad at you and stuff. So the point there is that the question was asked really addresses not just infrastructural or community designs that don't facilitate retrograding carbon reduction, but it also represents the injustice, because a lot of injustice, because everyone can benefit financially from doing this, and of course they benefit from having a healthier and being empowered to engage like those who have more privilege in terms of resolving this problem. So it's it's a question about injustice and what can be done. And what can be done is more at the institutional level. And this is, this one up here. This is oh yeah, he's got share that. Aaron's pulling something up here. You see it? Is it there? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this is something that we did for the seminar in Atlanta. Where's the circle? More circle. There we go. That essentially shows that what we do as individuals gravitates upward and it becomes a community effect as we engage others in what we're doing, and we use it to raise awareness and whether or not you live in an apartment or you live in a house, essentially you have agency if you live in a democracy, theoretically, and depending on the democracy. But with that agency, you can influence policy making, and by understanding that your power company and your city should be maybe thinking about a resolution to both provide a carrot and a stick for condominium boards to adopt means by which people can charge their vehicles, like providing a tax incentive for them to offset the costs, maybe a financial incentive to get it done, but at the same time requiring them to do that, because people just don't tend to do that. And these condominium boards seem to be run by attorneys more than they're run by the people who actually live in the condominiums. So that might have been a political statement, but still, the idea here is that what people can do in those circumstances is everything they possibly can. And most of that is going to be activism, and it's going to be becoming aware of what makes a good policy for your city to be able to adopt, and encouraging the people who make those policies to implement them.
Mark has a follow-up comment. He's saying, if the tenant is paying utilities, the landlord has no financial incentive to improve, only moral or normative incentives. Yes, that is true at the current time. If the tenant is paying utilities, then the financial incentive is there for the tenant. I am happy to, here, I just put my email there in the chat stream. I don't think we're going to have time for me to get to my talk, which was advertised in this webinar today. I have a company that a little small startup. My husband and I just started to help with energy retrofits, exactly the kind of stuff Bill is talking about. If anybody here wants ideas of what they can do with their home, that even easy stuff. I mean, you would be surprised how far you can go with weather sealing tape that you can buy for $5 at the hardware store, and how much energy you can save by just putting that weather sealing tape on your windows and doors, and that's very easy for tenants. We're talking about renters. There's little stuff you can do. You do not have to go buy $30,000 worth of solar panels to make a difference. An afternoon and $5 at the hardware store is already progress in the right direction. So I'm happy to talk with anyone about improving their home. And did you put that, Aaron, you put that in the text?
Yes, I put my Carbonell's link in the chat.
Great. Fantastic. I live in Colorado, in a very cold part of the country. It snowed yesterday for the first time this year. What are we, September? So we are on top of our weather sealing tape and other energy efficiency stuff here. Any other comments about, anyone want to talk about what they've been doing for their home, or have any questions for Bill before we move on to Aaron? Rebecca, unmute yourself.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Say it again,
Yeah.
Rebecca.
Arthur shared his experience in Geneva, that the electric company allows apartment renters to buy solar panels on public buildings and deduct their production from the electricity bill.
Yeah, see, that's a good policy. Yeah.
Dennis. Janice, did you have a comment? Unmute yourself.
Hello. I was just gonna share what I've tried to, do to make my home, little things. I have rain barrels, of course, and I did get solar. Again, I found a company that is not so expensive, but it basically brings my consumption down. And our energy company also provides a kit to help alleviate, like you said, it comes with, water saving things, all types of things and the things that you mentioned that go around the window, lots of little things. It's just a little kit that they offer. I'm in Florida, so our thing is mostly heat. So I have two small solar panels that I actually got on my own, which of course you can use in different ways. One of the ways that I use them is I bought a motor that it's a pump, it's a water pump, and so I use the water from the rain barrels to water the garden and stuff like that. And that, I bought one a battery, so that is what the pump runs off of. But you can do a lot, when you have I just have one battery and two solar panels. This was just my little experiment, so to say. But you could use it in lots of different ways. You could use it for illumination, having that one battery and two solar panels. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. There's little things here and there.
Your one battery and two solar panels suddenly become worth their weight in gold if there's any kind of severe disruption in the power grid. You've got a hurricane, it wipes out the electricity, you've got a couple of days.
Exactly. That's what I do when we have this hurricane coming, which we just did. It's like, okay, board up the windows and have that one electric cord coming inside, and then I could, you could power little electronics, which is good, just to keep going connectedness to the world.
There's a huge difference between having a working cell phone, radio, and not in a situation.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And again, you could use it. I thought of even having illumination. I actually live on a dirt road, so I don't have street lights. Actually, there are no street lights in a common sense. I do. So I could put up a street light. I do actually have the power company put a street light, which is my street light that I pay for, but I could do that with the little solar panel too. That battery will last all night long and recharge during the day. So there's lots of different options. And of course, I'm lights in different places when you want lights. So.
Oh, Dennis.
Thank you.
So I haven't done this yet, but it's in the works. I'm planning, for those of you who don't know, I run the IEF monthly webinar series, and I'm always looking for fun, new things to do with the webinar series. So one of these months, I'm going to do a workshop on how to improve your home. Easy stuff. So keep an eye on the announcements for when I offer the workshop. All right, I think we're ready for our next topic. Erin Kelly this time. Also Ottawa has figured out a nice format for online environmental devotionals and informational talks, and Erin is going to tell us all about his environmental cafe.
Yes, so this environmental cafe is a special initiative of the Ottawa Cluster Environmental Group, which is a group of people in Ottawa, Canada's capital city, who meet together. We meet monthly, and we've been meeting for about 3 years now, and this has come out of that. So the 613, by the way, is actually Ottawa's area code. I know you might be wondering the phone area code for the city. But basically what the Environmental Cafe 613 is it's a welcoming, spiritual, and fun space to learn about the interconnected issues humanity faces with a focus on the environment. So we've got a host who's usually Sherry Kelly. We've got speakers and participants, and we've got musicians who play as well. And so this is what the structure of the Environmental Cafe looks like. The devotionals are brief readings and writings from a variety of different faiths and spiritual traditions. And we couple that with live music from various presenters. Plus we have a substantive presentation. It's typically pretty short, like around 10 to 15 minutes, with a discussion afterwards, which is, an opportunity to ask questions, contribute, and explore the substantive presentation further. So here are some sample presentation topics, a sampling of them that we've had at our cafes. And along the bottom, you can see all of a number of the speakers who've given presentations. We've had some really engaging presentations given and great discussions, everything from environmental justice to Indigenous knowledge in the environment. The urban tree canopy, which described Ottawa's efforts to catalog and increase the size of its forest cover in the city. We've had ones on climate change impacts and adaptation, food security and climate change, which is a huge issue, and a pathway to a carbon neutral home. So with this, what we're doing in the cafe is we're bringing together concerned people of all faiths or of no faith. And the multi-faith devotionals are really, it's designed to be welcoming, and anybody can join. We're learning together about the exigencies of our time and the actions we can take to address them. And we're building bridges and networks for action, so that hopefully what we learn translates into real world actions. So if you're interested in joining us or learning more about the Environmental Cafe and how you could do one in your community, feel free to put your email in the chat or join us online. If you put your email in the chat, we can add you to our mailing list, our email list, and then you'll receive regular invitations. One of the cool things is that over time, we've built a database of emails of probably around 70 or 80 people. So we're continuing to grow our reach, and reach out to us if you have any additional questions that we're not able to get to today.
So also coming up in the webinar series, we're going to be co-listing one of these environmental cafes in the next couple months as a IEF webinar. So you'll get an invite if you're on the email list for one of their events. He invited you to, you can do a private chat if you want to, give your email to him to have you signed up directly. I really love that the format is a hybrid devotional, musical, and informational kind of lecture series. format, you know, not just one or the other. I think that's pretty cool.
Yes.
A lot of people do one or the other, but
yes, it's designed to be both fun and educational and learning and discussion. So it's really a full hour and a half or so of enjoyable devotionals and discussion and presentation. So music, it's great.
Is this once a month, every month? Is that your?
Yes, we typically take a few months off during the summer. We should be back here in October. And it's once a month.
And you're based out of Ottawa, but you are happy to have participants from all over the place?
Absolutely. We are on Zoom. We've had a couple hybrid meetings so that people can participate in person and online at the same time. But usually we're on Zoom, and we are welcoming anybody anywhere in the world to join us.
Yeah, the fact that it's got Ottawa in front of us just kind of tells you where we're at. But Ottawa is benefiting from the experience and knowledge that we're getting from speakers and presenters who come from other areas, and extrapolating their experience to what we're doing in Ottawa. And also people coming from other areas are able to do the reverse for them. So we've had a substantial volume of people who aren't Baha'is, both as presenters as well as participants in the discussions.
Love it. You've already got some takers in the chat here. One on your email list. Winona says, the cafe is a great place to help folks understand systems. No action is separated from the interlocking issues. So true. Any other comments or questions before I go to our final speaker here? All right. Pascal is our final speaker. He lives in Colombia and he's been there for, it sounds like, a couple decades. As far as I can tell, as soon as the Universal House of Justice came out in their plans to say, let's engage junior youth, which was in the early aughts, his community was a first adopter and jumped on it. And today he's going to talk about the ecological camps that he ran in the early aughts for junior youth, getting them out in nature and camping, and it looks fun. I'm jealous. Pascal, you want to share your screen? Yeah. Okay. So when COVID hit, my husband and I were gallivanting around North America in an RV, and we were camped in this little town called Breckenridge, Colorado, up in the Rocky Mountains, doing Nordic skiing and enjoying the winter sports. And then COVID hit, and we had to decide we could no longer live in our RV. The RV broke down, and the RV camp kind of closed, and we had to decide we go home from where we came from, or decide to stay where we were for COVID, and we decided to stay where we were. So we ended up in Park County, Colorado during COVID. This was a great place to spend lockdown because there's just so much nature and so many outdoor sports to be had. And in his restlessness, my husband is always thinking about new projects to do. He has a degree in environmental engineering from Stanford and has never been able to work in his field. He graduated in '96 when there wasn't a healthy industry in environmental stuff like there is now. So he ended up going into teaching himself computer science and becoming a database engineer and starting up a couple companies in the tech space. Finally, we retired from tech in about 2017, right before this RV adventure. And we finally found ourselves in a place. It was a good time in life, and we're in a good location to start a environmental initiative of some sort. So my husband has always been wanting to use his environmental engineering skills to run a company or a nonprofit or so he came up with this company. We're calling it Everlasting Earth Development. We've been at this for a few years. We have he found all of his favorite products out there in the world. We've got window coverings that have really high what's called R value, which is insulative capacity. You lose most of your heat in your house through your windows. So we found a window company that has the best insulation for your windows here. We signed up with a company that does really cool lighting. You can program your lighting to, come on at different times of the day, save electricity, and coordinate it with your blinds. Sun comes up, open the blinds, heat the house, sun goes down, close the blinds automatically. We learned all about products to insulate your home. There's all these cool new products. Materials engineering has come a long way in the last couple decades. It's really fun to learn about all this cool stuff, and all these companies now are making materials from recycled materials, and they have there's a lot of cool stuff out there on the market now. And of course, with some of this, you have to, like, for insulation, you want to be thinking about this when you're either building a new home or doing a serious retrofit. It's not for everybody, obviously, but we've learned a lot about solar panels, and I was so surprised to learn that most solar panel installations in America, anyway, if the electricity goes down, which is the one time you want to use your solar panels to power your house, that's the one time you can't use your solar the way that the electricity is actually hooked up. The solar panels are dependent on the grid. So, and the way that they're wired together, you have to do a lot of extra work to actually make your home so that you can use the electricity that you generate yourself. You'd think that would be a given, but it's not actually. As I'm getting into this stuff, I'm learning all these nitty gritty of how these engineering systems work. So we kind of collect, as you can see from this website, we've been like collecting all of our favorite products. We, in Park County, Colorado, most of the homes are run off of wells, wells that you'd have to dig on your own property. There's no city provided water. So when you have well water, you then need to treat it in some way before you want to drink it or run it through your pipes. Well water can destroy your pipes pretty easily if you don't soften it, and there's all this stuff. So we've been learning about water filtration and water treatment, and my husband has been learning about all sorts of windows and doors. He's super into fine woodworking, so we've been building some of our own windows, doors, door trim. We learned how to make European tilt turn windows that are super energy efficient and allow fresh air to come through the house. You'd think a window and fresh air would be a given, but there's a lot of windows out there that don't open. Especially if you ever go stay in just a generic hotel, they've decided for reasons of safety and legality to not let their windows open. That's a severe impact on human health and air quality and, you know, germs in the air and COVID, and, you know, there's all these other impacts down the road. So this is a European tilt-turn window. It's the most wild thing you've ever seen if you haven't encountered it. You can open the window like this, or you can just crack it a tiny bit for a little bit of airflow. And the fact that it opens in both ways just kind of boggles my mind. I haven't gotten my mind around that one yet. So anyway, that is our little COVID project. We have so far retrofitted 2 homes in Park County, Colorado, and I learned a lot about all these products and all, like, which things are the most valuable to spend your money on and how to integrate the electronics of these different kinds of things you want to plug in that work with the electricity, and water filtration, and we got into septic systems along with the wells, and so it's been fun. It's been fun to kind of dabble and learn more about environmental engineering and real world problem solving. The IEF conference events on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The next 4 events are a slightly different format here. They're panel formats. So we've got high-powered speakers all talking on a common theme. And then on Friday, in 6-7 days here at the very end of the conference, I'll be hosting another one of these interactive webinars, and we can discuss what's gone on during the course of the whole conference. What have you learned? What's some takeaways? Anyone who's been following the UN conference, which our conference is coordinated with, we can talk about what happened over the last week and plans for the future, and sign up for more IEF conference events over the next 6-7 days. And if you want another discussion format like this one, come back on Friday, same time. Gotta register for each of these conference events separately at that link that Christine provided. You get a separate Zoom link for each one. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a delightful show and tell.